Ending things on a fun note, Jim Kerr of 80s rock band Simple Minds reflects about the 1980s and tells us what he liked and disliked most about the decade. What do you like best and hated most about the 80s, if there was anything?
I didn't like Margaret Thatcher. Hate is a strong word, but I didn't like her. What did I like best? I think then kids had a lot of imagination, a lot more original imagination. One of the sort of criticism I see of kids now is that there's a culture of borrowing things. Back then, people were a lot more original, I think. So I think that's a good thing. But hate, I don't really get that passionate about hating things. I just ignore it.
Okay. Is there anything you would change about the 80s though? Oh, sorry, Simple Minds in the 80s? Would you change like maybe the way you dressed or...
Part of my instant reaction is to say yes, but on the other hand, if you didn't dress like that then, and I think every generation does
yeah,
that.
Of course.
Don't worry, in 20 years' time you will look back and see this, you say, well, what kind of hair is that?
Yeah, okay. When is it a signal for a band to give up? Because you guys just celebrated your 30th anniversary. Congrats. Not many bands get to that stage, but
yeah.
When is it a good time to say, you know what, we've done it and time to give up?
I think when you're, first of all, when you could say when you're no longer enjoying it, and that's been from a selfish point of view. But from an audience point of view, I think in terms of rock and roll, even with age, there's a kind of energy that's absolutely vital. And if you lose that energy when you're playing, it's a balloon without air. And if you lose that, some bands do, you go and you say, well, yeah, they played the songs, but with no energy. I think if you lose that, it's time to give up. And in fact, the audience will give up on you. So that's one thing. But then on the other hand, there's been times with us, not too often, what I've thought, you know what, I don't have another song in me. And maybe 2 years later, like just now, for instance, I'm writing more in the last 2 years than I ever did. 10 years ago, I thought, maybe this is getting close to the end. I'm thinking, and ironically, I wasn't sad about that. I thought, well, we've done great. People have been great to us. We did well. We got rewarded. Let's stop it before going around like punch-drunk boxers, shadow of ourselves. But then I'm glad we didn't, because there's a lot to be said for rejuvenation as well, regeneration. It also depends on other factors in your life, because when you're 18 and you start the band, it's the only thing you have in your life. You think about it 24 hours a day. That's great. 10 years later, you have to have your other life, your kids, your whatever. Suddenly you're only putting in 50% of the time. And if you become a big fat rich guy, like I did, it take another 25% to deal with your tax, and suddenly you're only putting 20% of your time. And your music is jealous. It tells you it's not as good as it once was.
Okay, one last question, the last question. We're going to end on a happy note. I want to know the wildest band story you had back in the day.
Well, wild is subjective.
Yeah, okay. What's wild to you?
Well, I'm probably, the kings of the wild, I suppose, were the heavy metal guys and those guys. They ran the riot, but getting arrested, really, really drunk, and I don't drink very much. I don't drink at all now, but getting arrested really drunk in London with my songwriting partner Charlie, climbing over this huge white wall that we could hear it. It was a garden, and there was a garden party going on. It was very obvious, and we thought, we've got to get in there.
What year was this?
81.
Okay.
It was a party in there. And as we were trying to get over this white wall, just to get into the party, we could see the blue lights of the police coming. The wall we were trying to climb into was the Russian embassy. So that was pretty wild. We ended up spending the night in jail before going to the studio to begin recording an album. It wasn't the best way to prepare, but there's not been so many nights like that.
Something to remember, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Jim.
Pleasure, man.
Yo, what up? It's Razor Butler.